Okay. Well, we're getting close to halfway through, so it must be time now, I think, to do some visuals.
Okay.
Tim, I'm going to start with you, and
All right.
feel free to tee up some of the things as far as like what things were like before, what things are like now, maybe what
Mhm.
your plans are as well. But it'd be nice to kind of paint that scenario of where people might be today and where they could be guided potentially with different technology decisions and investments and things.
Well, our biggest challenge was always what happens after we plant trees. Um, because after we planted trees, we were then relying on things like Google Docs to track when trees were watered. We would have a spreadsheet listing all the blocks, and people would be carrying their phones or tablets and filling in data on Google Docs. And it wasn't really that handy because when we pull up the tree inventory, we want to click on a tree and see how it's doing. We can't see that. So we have used the feature of Tree Plotter, which I'll show in a second, which is the inspection form. It's a little different than how Canopy's doing it. I think the nice thing about Tree Plotter is there's multiple ways to do the same thing, and there's I'll show you how we're doing things, and then you might see a little more about how Canopy does the same thing. But let me go ahead and share this screen. This is actually, so I'm logged in as a Tree Plotter here this is a live screen of Tree Plotter, and these are trees in Balboa Park, and we have tree stewards that visit these trees on a regular basis. So what they do is that they log into the system and they bring up the trees on the map. And right now the colors are showing species. Let's see. So if I show them, right, you can see that all these trees are part of this Tree Balboa Park project. There was a CAL FIRE grant to plant 500 trees in Balboa Park. So after the trees were planted, we had a fleet of volunteer tree stewards that would go and visit them. So they would go visit these trees monthly, select the tree, and they had an inspection form right here. So we had trained them on a number of things for them to check and and comment on. So they would just go through this form, and they would start here, and they would mark any conditions with the trees. And then we gave them a spot to leave comments. And then they had similar questions about the tree canopy. Apparently, this tree here, I guess they noted that there was flooding at the tree site. They also noticed that the tree's not symmetrical. And, I guess there are no comments, but a lot of times I see comments on these trees. I just picked a tree at random here, but there's some bark damage, some animal activity present. And then we have them check for dry soil. This tree did well. And so when they're done entering any notes and comments, they simply submit this inspection form by pushing submit. So the challenge is, now we have all these people collecting all this data on all of our trees. The challenge is really, how do you then keep up with that? So let me switch my screen to what looks the same but is actually different. I don't know how I could have done that. Let's pick a different screen. So I'll stop sharing that screen, and I'll start sharing a different browser that has it logged in as an administrator. So now I'm logged in as an administrator, and I'm looking at the same tree. So something I didn't point out, which is that this pop-up view that shows all this information on the other screen that you saw a second ago, different fields were showing up. So it was showing like they had tree steward ID numbers and tree steward zones, and all that information was showing here. But this is my view, and we can go in, if we click on details, we can see everything that's ever been done to this tree with this amazing new feature called feature history. And so I can see all the edits made to this tree by, and see who did them. So for instance, I see right here that one of our volunteers added that note that there was flooding in February as part of an inspection. You'll notice that was the last inspection for this tree because COVID hit, and we were not allowed to have these tree stewards in the park doing these inspections. So these trees have actually been, this tree has not yet been inspected, which surprises me. And so I might be asking the question, well, which of our trees have not been inspected recently, and what should we be worried about? There is a feature in Tree Plotter, which I won't take the time to show now because it's just, it might be a little complicated to do live, but there is and I'm just trying to refresh my memory by clicking back. There are these inspection cycles that are defined for all of these trees. So we have these trees set with a 1-month inspection cycle. We have the dates loaded for the trees of when the next inspection is due. So we can run a filter and bring up a map of all the trees that are overdue. And then we can see, based on where the dots are on the map, which of our volunteers is behind, and we can assist them and make sure they get caught up. The other things we can do is we can filter these trees, obviously based on any of the conditions that came up, and combine that filter with the, how recently those conditions have come up. And we can get really good reports to give to the Balboa Park city staff to actually address these problems, because the city doesn't have the resources to keep eyes on all these trees, but they do have people that will go out and take care of problems if we can give them a nice list. So it's been a really good way to make sure all of our trees stay healthy and they're getting properly attended to.